I've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Now what? Something that I hear very often in clinic. I can also hear people discussing it on forums. I have people DMing me with this question. Hello and welcome. My name is Valeria and I'm a naturopath and I specialize in thyroid function and endocrine function. We'll look into metabolities, we'll look into your hormones, and today I'm going to explain what do we do now. First of all, you probably would have been diagnosed by one of your practitioners. That would have been your GP, general practitioner in Australia, or a doctor if you're in America or anywhere else in the country. The way you would have been diagnosed is because your GP would have run a blood test. That blood test would have included TSH, most likely T4, T3, as well as TPO and TG. Now, T4 and T3 are the hormones that your thyroid produces, which show us how it's functioning. Is it fast enough? Is it not? Your TSH is, or thyroid stimulating hormone, is your brain marker. This is how your brain coordinates what your thyroid does. And TPO and TG are the antibodies that your doctor runs to see if you have Hashimoto's. Sometimes you will only have TPO high. Sometimes you will have TG high, right? Sometimes it will be both of them. Sometimes they will be in their hundreds. Sometimes they will be in their thousands, right? Sometimes they will just be in their 50s and 60s. All of these can be a diagnosis of Hashimoto's and the different degree of the impact that your immune system is having on your thyroid gland. So let's dissect it bit by bit. First of all, what does the thyroid actually do? Your thyroid, or a small butterfly-like shaped gland located in your neck, plays a really big role in regulating your entire metabolism. Every single cell in your body is going to respond to what the thyroid says, specifically to T4 and to a lesser degree to sorry, let me correct myself, specifically to T3 and to a lesser degree to T4. And that T4 would be probably 90% inactive and your T3 is 90% active. And every cell, including your eyes, your ears, your nails, your hair, your heart, your ovaries, your gut, your liver, everything is going to respond to those markers. It controls your energy levels, controls the degree at which every organ is going to work with, or the speed with which every cell in your body is going to operate at. It also controls your temperature. So if you're noticing that your extremities are cold or you're super sensitive to hot and cold, this is time to actually have a look into your thyroid function a bit more specifically. When I've mentioned earlier energy levels, that also means your energy levels in terms of how much of that energy do you get throughout the day? Can you sustain yourself throughout the day? Do you have ups and downs? Are you going to highs and then you're dropping low after you had a meal, or you've hit your 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. in the afternoon? Do you get a second wind? All of that is also determined by your thyroid function. Mood. Quite frequently, I see people coming with apathy-like symptoms, which are later on diagnosed by various practitioners as depression. They show up a little bit differently to what normal clinical depression is like. Nonetheless, people still get recommended antidepressants for that type of medication, even though the root cause of an issue is within the thyroid. Heart rate and menstrual cycles. So if you get heart palpitations, tachycardia, it can last a couple of seconds. Your heart skips a bit, makes a funny little extra beat in a second or in a minute. That would be your indication to also look not only into your cardiovascular system, but also in how your thyroid functions. And when I say menstrual cycles, absolutely everything, starting from cramping, painful periods, clots in your blood, irregular cycles, absent cycles, miscarriages, struggling to fall in pregnant, all of that will also be coordinated by the thyroid gland, being one of the main glands that looks after all the other glands and all the other cells, right? So once we are we've established what the thyroid does, and we've identified that T4 is a non-active thyroid hormone, and it needs to be converted into an active form T3, and then T3 will dictate to your body how to operate. Let's now have a look into TPO and TG. It's important you understand these markers if you have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, because a lot of the time what we see happens is that you're given medication, you said it's for life, you'll have to deal with it, you'll have to live with it, and off you go, right? Not knowing that if you do not address the autoimmune markers, this condition will continue to exacerbate. Sometimes very quickly, sometimes it will take you a decade, but it will slowly chip away and destroy the thyroid. So what is TPO? Thyroid peroxidase. This is an enzyme, and that enzyme helps the thyroid produce hormones, T4 and T3. It helps us actually stick the iodine to the T4 and T3. What does it mean? So T4 stands for 1 molecule of tyrosine and 4 molecules of iodine. TPO attaches these together. T3 stands for 1 molecule of tyrosine and 3 molecules of iodine. TPO attaches these together. What is thyroglobulin, TG? This is another autoimmune marker, Hashimoto's marker. This is a protein that actually stores the building blocks of the thyroid hormone. So in simple terms, this is a placenta, right? This is a storage center where we store all the ingredients that are needed to actually create thyroid hormones. Most of the time, and I'd say 90% of the time, it is more prevalent that we will have TPO impacted in Hashimoto's. To a lesser degree, this will be TG, and even a lesser degree of a combination of TPO and TG. It is a fairly common condition worldwide. I'd say in Australia alone, we probably got about 30% of the population unaware that they've got Hashimoto's, and those that are aware are not treating it, right? Women are more prone to developing Hashimoto's than men, and we're going to find out why. So Hashimoto's, like we've mentioned before, is a condition where the immune system is starting to attack the thyroid gland, particularly thyroid peroxidase, TPO, and thyroglobulin, TG. As it attacks them, it destroys them. This is what immune system does. And thank goodness she's so good at it, or it is so good at it, right? And it saves lives. That immune system reaction does save life. So how come it is so distracting when it happens in thyroid? Because for the time being, it identifies its own cells, your own body cells, as an enemy, and it starts destroying them. So as we destroy the thyroid, we have less capacity to create T4 and T3. That means we have less capacity for energy, less capacity for healthy heartbeat, for healthy cycle, for healthy menstruation, for healthy pregnancy, healthy nails, hair, brain cognition, eye vision, and so on, right? There are several reasons that I want to highlight today why this happens. Autoimmune conditions don't just occur on their own. There are a few reasons behind it. And as we know, there are not many medications to this day that actually address the autoimmune markers. There are some medications that will provide you with synthetic T4 and non-active thyroid hormone, but we know that it will be difficult for you to convert it into T3 because TPO, the actual enzyme that helps the conversion, attaching and disattaching iodine, right? It will be destroyed. And as it is getting destroyed, it can't do its job properly. Imagine someone constantly annoying you whilst you're trying to do your work, right? That's what happens ultimately within the thyroid. So what are the reasons? One of the first things I'd like to cover is Epstein-Barr virus. So EBV, something that I highly recommend you get tested for. A lot of the time you would have been exposed to this virus when you were young. If you had tonsillitis, if you had angina, if you had any upper respiratory tract infections, you might have caught an Epstein-Barr virus. It is, although very prevalent and causes a lot of conditions in human body once it establishes itself, one of those reasons is that it can start living within your thyroid gland. And as it lives within your thyroid gland, your immune system finds that it's there and it goes to attack it. And it's actually not attacking your own cells. It's trying to attack the Epstein-Barr virus. It's trying to get rid of the virus. But on the paper, what we will see is that your TPO is high and your TG is high because alongside destroying the virus, your immune system is also destroying the thyroid gland. So that's step one. Reason why, right? One of the reasons why this could be happening. Another one is not so scientific, or the term is not very scientific, leaky gut. Intestinal permeability is a fancy word. A side note right away to this is that it is not diagnosed on colonoscopy or gastroscopy. There are some microbiome tests and there are some stool tests that can showcase that you've got a leaky gut. But usually in natural medicine, we just go by symptoms, and there are some pretty obvious symptoms that you've got it, one of which is autoimmune conditions. Any autoimmune condition, including Hashimoto's, one way or another, will be connected to your gut and will be connected to a leaky gut. What does it mean, leaky gut? It's leaking. So let's imagine a plumbing system in your house. And the plumbing system is designed to be solid, right? It's got no gaps. There are no leaks. If there is a leak in your plumbing system in your house, we know that sooner or later you're going to develop mold. You're going to damage your floors. You're going to damage your ceiling, walls, right? It's not going to be good. Ultimately, this is what's happening with the gut. If the gut is solid and it's got no holes in it, then we won't have any reactions. Your immune system won't be reacting. You won't have headaches, migraines. You won't have skin issues. All of that is a sign of leaky gut, right? I'm not going to mention all of the symptoms right now, but these are some of the most obvious ones. That means that we've got a tiny microscopic holes in your digestive system. So in your digestive system, we've got things similar to hair. They're much smaller. We call them villi. They're very tiny, but there's lots and lots of them, to the point where if we were to stretch the gut lining from here, it will actually reach the moon, go over the moon and back. That is how long your digestive system it actually is. And it enhances the absorption. It gives us more space to absorb the food that we've consumed. And if we've got that tiny little hole, that means that undigested food, together with the microbes, together with some compounds, let's say like toxins and things like that, will start leaking into the blood. And as that does, your immune system's reaction is, oh, enemy, it's not supposed to be here, destroy. What it does really well, it destroys that food that ended up in the bloodstream that was not screened by the liver. And the immune system has a tendency to remember things. And thank goodness it does, because it also saves our lives when it comes down to viruses or bacteria and things like that. But because it saved the memory of, let's say you've had a piece of bread and you've got leaky gut and it leaked into your bloodstream without surpassing the liver, your immune system destroyed it because it's not supposed to be in your blood undigested. And it remembered the protein structure of that bread that you've eaten, right? Of that molecule of that glucose that you've consumed. We're also made out of proteins. So as that immune system circulates through your blood, it finds a similar protein structure. And what it starts doing is that it starts destroying that protein. And this could be your own tissue, including TPO, thyroid peroxidase, or TG, thyroglobulin, the markers which are within your thyroid function, right? Within your thyroid gland. And that's how we end up leaky gut, causing the autoimmune Hashimoto's or autoimmune thyroiditis. Another reason is chronic stress. So something that we have been accustomed to over the last couple of decades, I would say. And acute stress is healthy for the body. It helps us produce a lot of cortisol and it helps us survive. Ongoing stress creates an inflammatory condition in your body, and it also draws the blood away from your gut, right? So what we end up having is your blood is in your extremities, it's in your mind to run away, to hide such and such, but not digest the food. If it's acute, makes sense, right? You ran away from a car that was about to crash, or from hail that was coming down from the sky. You saved yourself, you've come down, you went and had a meal. When that stress is ongoing, an email, a phone call, you watch the news, you watch crime shows, on and on and on, personal stories, societal stories, all of that contributes. You're constantly in that state of flight and fight and freeze. Actually, there are three, right? Fight, flight, and freeze. So you're not digesting properly. The blood is not being sent to the gut. And this is how, again, we end up with the leaky gut. So stress and gut are super connected. You end up with inflammation, you end up with toxins, and you end up with the immune system targeting your own cells. Another common reason for developing Hashimoto's is actually pregnancy or postpartum. During that period, the immune system shifts, it changes. You've got an external, let's say, a different DNA growing within you, right? Partially yours, partially not. And your immune system has to shift, it has to adjust to what is going on. And it can tip the balance within your own immune system and how your immune system responds to viruses, to lactose, to foods. You might have noticed, and some of you might have noticed, and if you did, let me know in the comments below, that when usually you're not, let's say, tolerating dairy very well, but during pregnancy, you were fine with it. And that's because your immune system has adjusted to accommodate for the baby as well as your own immune system. Similarly to that, but in a more negative side, we start to develop autoimmune markers, which are destroying our own thyroid function. This usually happens more commonly in people who are predisposed, genetically predisposed. So if you have history of Hashimoto's in your family, you would be more likely developing something similar in your pregnancy and postpartum if you're not looking after yourself very well. So what do we do? What now? Okay, I've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Thank you, Val. You now explained to me what it is. What do I actually do? My first recommendations is to get more tests. One of those tests I've already mentioned, Epstein-Barr virus, EBV. We want to test that. This is a blood test. You do not need to prep for it. So it's pretty straightforward. We just need to know, is it something you've been exposed to in the past? Is it currently active viral load, or is it dormant viral load, but your immune system remembers it? So there'll be several markers that your practitioner will run. Usually it's IgG and IgM against Epstein-Barr virus. This will give us a straight idea as to, do we work with your immune system and actually reducing the viral load and the toxins that are left from the virus, or do we address, for example, digestive system, stress responses because you do not have Epstein-Barr virus. Another recommendation I would make is selenium. Get tested for selenium. Really, really important in autoimmune condition Hashimoto's. And for that being, selenium actually helps us convert T4 into T3. So let's say you've been given levothyroxine, or you've been given thyroxine, or you are on desiccated thyroid hormone. A little bit easier with desiccated thyroid hormone, but nonetheless, selenium will help you convert your own T4 into T3, so you feel better, you've got more energy, better hair growth, better cognition, better cycle. But it will also protect the thyroid gland from getting destroyed by the immune system whilst you're addressing the root cause. Now, it's important to know that selenium itself does not address the root cause. It simply protects and helps you convert, whether you're on medication or whether you're trying to convert your own non-active T4 into an active form T3. And we also know for a lot of scientific papers, peer-reviewed, that selenium helps us actually reduce thyroid antibodies. Again, it doesn't address the root cause, but it does assist us with dropping that anti-TPO and anti-TG, something that your GP or your doctor would have run to diagnose you in the first place. Selenium will help with that. On a wider audience like this, I do not recommend supplementing without the test results. We do need to know if you have sufficient and if this is one of the key features of your treatment or if it's not. Excess of selenium in your body can also be quite toxic. Like everything in life, right? Everything is meant to be in balance, and selenium is one of those. Now, this can be a blood test. This can also be a urine test. I highly recommend a urine test because that way we get to see what your body is excreting. And the more it's excreting, the more we know you've got sufficient amount. The less it's excreting, the more we know your body's trying to hold on to because it doesn't have enough for itself. Now, once you know your levels, then we can establish how do we actually look after it. I'd like to also cover a psychosomatic layer of developing Hashimoto's. This is on a deeper level of understanding. So now that we've discussed the testing that needs to be additionally done, now that we've understood what Hashimoto's is, I also want you to look at it from a perspective of your emotions, your mental health. A lot of the time, people who develop Hashimoto's will be having people pleasing tendencies, right? You would put other people before yourself. You would feed others, let's say in your household, you'll make breakfast for everybody before yourself. You will buy better presents for people around you than yourself. You will say yes to people because you don't want to upset them. So this will lead us to a place where you will find you have difficulty expressing your no's, expressing your boundaries, speaking your own truth. This also leads us to developing autoimmune thyroiditis, right? Or Hashimoto's. So developing on a psychosomatic manifestations of thyroid conditions, I'd also say harsh self-criticism. So when your inner chatterbox in your head is very critical of you, very so self-criticism can show up for you on every single day. It can be a really big picture of your life and you're not even aware of it. It's important to start tracking that and becoming more conscious of your inner monologue and how self-judgmental you might be. This will actually profoundly impact your overall thyroid health, or let's even say your throat chakra, and is symbolically linked to your self-communication, your external communication, and your authenticity, the way that you show up in this world. In terms of recommendations, now I'm mindful that these are very generalized recommendations because I don't have your individual case. I don't know if this is gut related, stress related, viral related, if it's post-pregnancy. So what I'm about to say benefits most people. And if you want incredible results, I encourage you to book in a free 15-minute discovery call with me, and we'll discuss how I can help you personally in one-on-one circumstances. Let's dive in. First of all, diet, of course. First and foremost, I highly recommend going gluten and dairy free for at least 12 weeks. Okay. The reason being 12 weeks is because this is how long your immune system will take to forget that and for your gut lining to start healing. Okay. Gluten and dairy unfortunately are not what they used to be, let's say 50 years ago, and they're a lot more inflammatory now than what they used to be. Over the world, globally, this has been identified that gluten and dairy have been a print and a really key feature in stimulating Hashimoto's and stimulating other autoimmune conditions. So give yourself a lot of cuddles and try and replace this. In saying that, if you are replacing it, please be mindful of the quality of food you have in general. If you can invest in organic or homegrown food, highly recommend going down that path, just so that you're reducing the burden on your body that is already asking you and screaming for your help. So eliminating gluten and dairy will help us reduce inflammation in your body and will help us reduce antibody levels. I do have experiences in practice when eliminating these alone has been sufficient enough for people to drop their TPO and TG markers. In saying that, it depends on which degree you are, right? If your TPO and your TG is around 50, 60, well, your TPO mainly would be around 60. Your TG would be about 12 by that stage. It would be reasonable to drop it with food and eliminating those inflammatory foods like gluten and dairy. But if we're talking hundreds or if they're talking thousands, a lot of the time we'll need to look at other aspects of your health, not just diet. Moving on to other aspects, this would be stress management. And yes, life is pretty challenging and challenges are not going to go away. So I'm not going to ask you to stop worrying about it. But what I will ask you to do is to learn to manage stress in ways you haven't before. So you might have not been taught that walking, swimming, singing, meditation, music, venting, going to therapy to talk about it, journaling can be actually pretty powerful tools in helping you navigate through life forces and life challenges. And it's important that we learn to manage that stress through healthy and health building practices rather than health destroying practices like alcohol, smoking, gambling, shopping, workaholics, and so on. This will help us regulate that cortisol, allowing you to actually consume foods and digest food properly. And it's also going to calm down your nervous system. There's so many times in practice that I've seen people go on a holiday and come back feeling so much better, and their antibodies drop dramatically just because they were looked after. They could relax, they didn't have to work, they didn't have to think about things. I'm not saying that this is sustainable long term, of course not, but there are things that you can implement in your life on a daily basis that will help you address that cortisol and drop those markers. Immune system support. So our job would be particularly in reducing Th1 and Th2 responses. This is the immune system responses, which are creating antibodies. There are nutrients in here that are quite profoundly important for your immune system's well-being, and this is vitamin D, vitamin A, and zinc. Prior to supplementing and just going blindly into supplementing with this, again, I recommend you test. Do not guess. Do I need it? Do I not? What the dose is. Get tested first. Review this test with a healthcare provider, can be me, and then start supplementing accordingly, whether for food or for the supplements, whichever way suits you best. But supporting your immune system will be profound. This is not a once-off. This is long term. It didn't take you a night to create Hashimoto's. You would have spent at least a couple of years developing that, okay, before you were diagnosed. So it will take us some time to unwind it. Don't expect a sprint. Prepare for marathon when it comes down to looking after yourself. Perhaps you will need selenium here as well to support your immune system. We don't know. Get tested, right? Also looking after your herbs. So some people might be like, oh, should I be taking some herbal medicines and things like that? So individual. I wish I could say things that are like, oh, this herb is great and that herb is great, but there is no such thing that is safe for me to say in a wider audience. There are absolutely herbs out there that do reduce antibodies, but we need to know it is safe for you to do so, okay? Because there are a lot of little nuances which might, in your case, contradict the herbal medicine intake. I hope that gives you a really good insight on what to do. So now that you know what Hashimoto's is, this is not a statement. This is something that you can put in remission. I've seen this time and time and time again, given you understand the root cause, and this means sometimes testing. You also understand, once you understand the root cause, you understand what your dietary intake should be like, what it should look like. You understand how to manage your stress levels. You start to look after your immune system. And if we need supplements, if we need liquid herbs, if we need herbal medication in, let's say, tablet form and so on, I highly advise you work with a specialized practitioner to look after you. I do work online, so you can find me from any spot in the world and we can have a chat. I do have a free 15-minute discovery call where we can see if we're a good fit and if I can help you. And I hope that you have enjoyed today's conversation. I am going to create more videos of the same format for you if you enjoy. So hit the like button, subscribe, give me your feedback in the comments below, and until next time.